Ironically, it was a teacher in her 20s who sent me to see the headmaster because they wanted to know why I wasn't going on into the sixth form, my form teacher. I thought that was quite visionary for somebody that age, but perhaps they did a conflab and said, why isn't Ian doing so well? Because, well, I don't know. I mean, to me, 3 O levels was rubbish because my brother got 10. But he was bigger than me when we were kids. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, well, yeah, I've said before, I mean, I had a milk run, so I was up at 5 or 6 days a week. 5 in the morning, 6 days a week, so that wouldn't do me very much good. But I mean, I did better at college in a different town. I was just going on a bus, and it was I think the first bus was 6:30 because we caught one bus. It went about 7 miles, and then one 20 or 30. But I think the first bus was 6:30. So I'd start walking at 6:30. I'd start walking at 6:30 because yeah, it was about 40 miles. Yeah, that wouldn't take 2 hours, would it? We'd get there for, we had to be there for 9, sometimes we were a few minutes late, but if the traffic was bad, 40 miles, no, it'd take less than an hour. Because it only used to take, I went back to college after about 3 years of work, and I used to drive there. It's 35 miles, it used to take, it used to take less than an hour in a car, but the car's a bit lighter than a bus. I don't know, yeah, and it was bush down country lanes as well in some parts. Yes, I suppose, yeah, we used to go around picking people up in the coach after the double-decker. Yeah, we did pick people up in villages, so yeah, probably was 6:30 start then, yeah, to get there in time to get the second bus, yeah. So I'd be up at 5 o'clock then, but yeah, and it was a longer day because I'd have to come back. Don't know. I was in a different town. It was a spa town as well, so dead posh. It's one of the poshest. It used to be one of the poshest, poshest expensive places in this area, but I don't know. Different teachers, yeah. I mean, the kids are some troublemakers at school, and well, that's the thing. You're forced to go to school. If you go to college and you're not doing an apprenticeship, it's up to you whether you go, really, isn't it? Unless your parents send you, but that wouldn't make any difference. I don't know. It must have been the teachers, because, well, they could keep order, because that's the thing with college teachers, college tutors. They've all done an apprenticeship and worked their way from an apprentice to management, and they've dealt with real people and worked in real situations and controlled flipping men twice as big and heavy as them and that. But in most cases, blokes like that, they're dead. They're good natured and do out you ask them. Without any, well, most people do. If they're in a job, they should do. But yeah, I mean, I know I've said this before, but I saw it on telly. Teachers, well, they go to school and then they go to university and then they go back to school, or they have a home life and that. But it's an entirely different kettle of fish in an engineering works, which is what most of my lecturers would have started in. One was in the RAMI, but, well, that's going to be even more, there's going to be more discipline. No, you shouldn't get rebellious soldiers, but, and yeah, it reminds me of the lad at school. I wish I'd told him about me nana, I forgot. His dream job was an MP because he wanted to beat squaddies up. That's what he used to say that every time. I want to join the military police so I can beat squaddies up. I saw him at the school reunion. He says, "What are you doing these days?" I says, "I'm on sick." I told him what was wrong. He said, he says, I got my dream job as an MP, and I beat a load of squaddies." He wouldn't beat them up. He'd make them I've seen what they do. If they're drunkards and that, and when they're training, they make them clean things like the mortar between bricks and stuff with a toothbrush and stuff like that. They do make them cut grass with flipping pair of scissors. They do, because it calms them down. Mainly it's anxiety that causes them to drink and that, and it makes it worse. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get my dream job. My dream job was to be a mechanic, but I kind of underestimated myself, because I always do. I mean, to me, I went for quite a few interviews as an engineer, and I'd say, "Can you grind?" And I say, "What?" Oh, I didn't say, I think, like, what? Angle or bench? But I don't know what they mean. But, well, yeah, you go for an engineering job, an apprenticeship, and say, "Can you grind?" And then, well, yeah, I'd been for a draftsman's job, but they said, "Would you consider going back to college?" I said, "Yeah, but I meant day release." They thought I meant full time, because that would mean leaving the job and going somewhere else. And it was quite a prestigious firm in a really rural area. It's a very sort of rural and exclusive, well, posh area. It would have been good, that. But it never happened. Anyway, yeah, they're a very renowned firm as well. They're still going, because they were brilliant at what they did, and it was to do with farming. So yeah, it would go, wouldn't it, if they were good? But yeah, I had quite a few disappointments like that, and well, it happens, doesn't it? I mean, my mother used to get dairy diaries when I was a milk boy because she liked they were just the right size, the right number of sheets and the right number of lines and that on a page. She just liked the size of them. And I don't know, I think eventually she got them off our milkman because obviously I drove a van for someone else, but we stuck to the same milkman, and they were our worst competitor, but they were friendly about that, they weren't bothered. She must have got them off them because I don't think they did them, but must have got them for her. Because I got 2 or 3, got them when I was a lad for 2 years, and then I did a round on a Saturday morning when I was at college, so I'd get one that year, and I'd get one, and after that I drove the van, so I'd get one that year, that would be 83, but she had them to about 88, I think. She must have gone off the other milkman. And I was looking in these days, and after she died, and there was, Ian goes for interview, Ian doesn't get job, time and time. Well, you know, there'd be one, Ian started milk round, Ian started at the dairy, Ian started as a storeman, and Ian started as a welder at York Trailers, and that was about all it was really. Other than that, it was, I mean, most of the jobs I've had that I've finished, I've worked it to the end of them, or I've just left because I just couldn't cope with them. I mean, with the milk round, I'd meet my mates coming home from the pub, and I'm thinking, I'm getting this wrong. But when I got to the pub, it isn't actually, it's actually worse. You're just making yourself ill. But it took me a while to learn that. But yeah, what was I thinking about? Yeah, I can't remember what my train of thought now. Something about dairy diaries and that I've forgotten. Oh yeah, what came after that? Yeah, that was it. Oh, Ian started college, Ian finished college. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, the part-time jobs. Yeah, I had a one-day job, traffic censusing on a local dual carriageway. They were wanting to know the percentage of trucks and cars and vans and stuff we had to count them all. There was only one opportunity for me to do that, and it was a one-day job, so that was it. I did the job, but I couldn't have gone back because they didn't want. I think they were short for one of the days they were doing it, so I got the job, and. There were other things. Yeah, one of the other milkman gave me a job after I left the milk round because his son got married and he drove there were 2 vans, the father and the son. Although there were 2 sons, and I think the father and son were in. Yeah, the father and son were in one. That was the one I worked on. Yeah, the lad went on holiday, and I just helped out because they were short of a man. Yeah, and on the other round it was one of the sons and he drove. And what else was there like that? Can't think. I did traffic censusing, I drove on that. I didn't know I worked on that round, I didn't drive on it. There were other things like that I count as jobs, like, I did all 4 rounds on the milk round, same milk round, and I did one while I was at college, and I had the driver's job, so that's 6 jobs. This is since I was 13, I think I've had 21. Paper round, milk rounds. Yeah, and I include 2-day jobs and 1-day jobs and anything else like that. To me, it's a job. I haven't included voluntary work, but I've only really had one main voluntary job, conservation, dry stone walling. I was out. I hadn't worked for years, and I wasn't very fit. And I found that hard because what happened was, well, I initially went to do, what was it, 2 hours a week, one day a week, 2 hours a week was it, I think, to clean the boots and wellies and clean all the tools and put the wellies into boots into sizes and put them in the racks and stuff, and the same with the tools. But eventually they kept saying, do you want to do a full day? And eventually I did, and I think, what was it, 14 days in a year? Because that's the thing, you do a day's dry stone walling, and then it's 6 weeks until you do another, and you build your fitness up on the job on the first day, and it's gone by the time you do the second day. It used to, I mean, that was about what I was doing eventually. It used to drive me nuts. I said, I can't keep this up, and they said, okay, it doesn't matter. But and that was the thing. It's motivating myself to get there. Any job now, it's motivating myself to get to work. And now I have no family left, so there's nobody to push me. I mean, when I did the voluntary work, Dad had retired, and he would. It pushed me to go. But if he wasn't in, I wouldn't go. Just ring, I'm not coming in today. Yeah, I'd do that. But it's not laziness. I mean, after 21 jobs, how do you motivate yourself? I mean, family have been slowly dropping like flies all the time, and I knew it was going to happen. But I mean, I just can't motivate myself to do anything now, and I tend to sit and think, and I get in a bad mood because I'm not doing anything, and my thoughts get worse and worse and worse. It isn't mental illness; it's just life, innit? I'm nearly 60. Some people would have retired a long time ago. They made a lot more money than me, but the jobs I've had, they wouldn't even pay a mortgage. But I've got this, but it's rented. And, I mean, it's the first house on my own. My dad can't keep me out of here. Well, it's not his, and he died over 18 months ago. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't behave at home, I'd be kicked out. Once into the snow. Well, I didn't have to go into the snow because my mate, it was at the trailer factory. My dad was motivating me to go by saying, I'm going to kick you out if you don't go to work. And it was towards the winter, and eventually it was about -10. And I was telling my mate in the pub when he came home from Polly at Christmas, and he says, oh, you can come and stay in my digs. And on the way there, we went down was it the M18 or the M1? It was one of those. The M1, the M18 goes from is it the A1 to the M1? I can't remember, but one of those carriageways where that airliner crashed in the end of, it was the last days of '88. It crashed onto the carriageway we went down. If we'd been 2 hours later, it would have landed on us. I mean, there's other things like that have happened to me. I haven't got many lives left, have I? I mean, it's not a game. But yeah, well, I was thinking about something else along those lines. And the cycling accident I had, I mean, I was hit by a car. It could have taken an arm off, a leg off, on my head. Because I've heard about somebody used to tell me about accidents. Somebody was going downhill pretty quickly on a bike. A pheasant flew into its path, into the front wheel, and jammed the front wheel. They went over the handlebars and were killed. And I think they had an helmet on. I didn't have an helmet on. Well, they were trendy in 92, and the ones around in 92 made you look stupid. And I had no income. I had no money in the bank. I had no income, so I couldn't afford one. I wasn't on my mother's old bike, though, for once, because I'd done a couple of days on one building site. My mate gave me a couple of days' work on his house. So I had 40 quid, and I spent it all on the bike. 2 tyres, $2.99 each. Derailleurs, front and rear, I think, chain, seat. No, I don't know about the seat, but the problem with it was my brother had borrowed it without my permission, and it was in first gear. I didn't leave it in first gear. I was been messing about with it. I didn't know he put it into first gear. The derailleurs went into the spokes and ripped out of the frame, and I'd never seen it before. Normally, they used to clamp onto the frame with a nut and bolt, but there was like a threaded top hat shape. Well, sort of. Well, if you get the gin, a bit wider at one end, and that held it into the frame, and the derailleurs went on the outside and screwed into it. The most of them are like that now. Or are they? No, they have a bracket with the threading, but this one, it didn't have a bracket. It just had this like a collar that slotted into the frame, and you screwed the derailleur screw into it. I've never seen that before, and never again. But I went to the bike shop, and unbelievably, they had one. Was it? No, it had taken the threads out of the frame. No, that was it. Yeah, taking the threads out of the frame. It would have re-tapped, but I didn't have a tap and die set. So they said, we've got this, it'll fit it. And it did, they were right, it did. It went through the hole, and it had threads in. I could have helicoiled it. I couldn't afford kits like that, though. I could have done that now. It's like one of the neighbours saying he had a motor scooter, and he'd been riding it around town without the panels on, which is dangerous, because if you hit someone and the panelling isn't on, there's dangerous objects on it. Like they had to make the Spirit of Ecstasy on the front of a Rolls Royce retractable, because if you were hit by that in the stomach, if you were knocked over by a Rolls Royce and that stuck in your stomach, it would gouge your stomach open. So they make the spring loading, they go into the bonnet now. But that's the thing, he shouldn't have been doing that, and I think people had talked about it. He took it to the scooter place he got it from. They said, we can't do that, because he could fall off it or something and tear some threads out of a hole on the frame. He said, we can't fix it. Well, I said to him, couldn't you get a tap and die set and do that? He didn't know what I meant, but that's the thing. He would have been able to fix it, but they'll have known he's been being stupid with it. He's recently had an electric scooter confiscated. He's saying, no, I didn't have insurance, you don't have to have it. He said something about being on the road with it. Well, they're legal on the road. I think the pavement, they're too fast. It's illegal to ride an electric bike on the pavement, but a mobility scooter, no. They're only allowed to do 4 miles an hour, and most of them do. But you can get 8 mile an hour ones. I think it's sort of not on the pavement, but they're a bit slow for the road though. But now you can do 28 miles an hour on an electric bike. It's just a bit of a nuisance for the traffic. I mean, I always pull over to let them past if I can hear them. But I mean, you do tend to hold the traffic up on a main road. But yeah, if there's a truck behind you and you've got a trailer behind you on your bike, yeah, you are a nuisance. And the best thing that I do is just to ride onto the verge. If there isn't much of a curb or a ridge at the outside of the verge, I just get on the verge to let the trucks pass. Or if I can't do it, I get off the bike and push it onto the verge. Because yeah, you are a nuisance, and the trucks are important. They move food about and everything about, don't they? Really. For what's on about? I don't know. Forgotten. Yeah, scooters and that. Yeah, this neighbour, he's had one, an electric scooter. That's yeah, it was a pretty fast one, and he was saying the motor was too powerful because what did he say? It was 500 watts, and you're only allowed 250, and he'd been going too fast, and he does clown around. He must do, because they wouldn't. I've never been stopped on an electric bike. I have an old one. It was it's 1500 watts, but it was before the clamp down on the power output, so it's legal because it was before the sort of watershed for the clamp down. But his scooter was too fast, and I think he must do silly things because they've never stopped me once on an electric bike. Well, if you're riding sensibly, they won't even notice. That's the thing. They won't notice the battery in the motor because if you're sensible, you're not going to injure anybody or injure yourself. They're not bothered because it costs so much to. They won't get any extra for doing it, will they? And if they fine you, it won't be worth doing. I mean, I said earlier, well, months ago, if you're driving a car without a license, if you're not doing anything stupid, they probably won't even bother because, I mean, apparently they can scan your number plates and check if you're with a camera on the cars, and you just go straight to Swansea through the computers and says, you know, is this vehicle tax tested and insured? And if it does, they don't stop you. Speeding, it's a camera on the side of the road, or a speed camera, but your licenses, they can't tell. I mean, the thing is, if you've got a license now and it's a photo license, and you have somebody that looks similar, well, photo license, if they haven't got a camera that scans your face on the photo, you can pretend to be someone with a license and just say, oh, I'm so-and-so, and they wouldn't know. Oh, I've dyed my hair. They wouldn't know, would they? I've had my haircut or got a wig on. They wouldn't know. But I mean, you have to have an official photograph for your license now, or you can prat about forever with software to get you have to get the sort of a proportion between the top of your head and the chin and that fit in a certain place on the photo, or they won't accept it. But the quickest way to do is go to somewhere who has someone who does it professionally, a shop, and they have a specialist camera, and it's literally it gets all the proportions right, and as long as you have the right distance from it, that's it. It's done. It's much easier because yeah, it takes ages to get it right with an ordinary camera, and you usually have to edit it to cut your body off because you get too much shoulders or your head like that, and you have to mess about for ages. Whereas the ones in the shops, they're done in a couple of minutes, and there's usually somebody trained to do it. But yeah, I mean, if you have a photo license and you look like very similar to someone else, they're not going to know, are they? Even if they stop you and you produce the license, they won't know. Or somebody a real person goes to the police station and produces it. How would they know? You give them the producer. Job done, isn't it? Even if your hair's a different colour, you can say, oh, Daddy, since I had the photo taken. I don't think you're supposed to wear glasses unless you need them, I think. Or do you have to take them off? I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, these photo licenses. Not going to work, is it? I mean, with customs and that, a passport photo, they have a face recognition system. It doesn't pick out the face in the photograph. It measures the distance between your eyes, your nostrils, your eyes and your nostrils, the thickness of your top lip, and you can't really alter that. Yeah, you can have lip implants, but it won't confuse it. I mean, it's the distance between your forehead and your mouth and your chin, and it measures all that, and it can tell. But there again, if you look identical, you'll have similar. It will be similar, won't it? I mean, if you're in a pet car and your eyes are really far apart or close together, they would notice. But if you look similar, they won't know, will they? And possibly the cameras won't pick it up. So it's nonsense anyway, isn't it? I mean, I wouldn't do it because if you get caught and you are caught, you'll be up for the high jump. And if you have an accident, you won't be insured. But well, I mean, you see people on motorbikes, they've got a helmet on. How can they possibly know? They can't, can they? Because I've heard about a lad borrowed his mate's motorbike, got away with it, but he wanted to see what it performed like because it was a new and latest model. he said, I only took it to 12,000 revs on the ring road to see if it had a second power band. I don't know. I don't know where the power band was, but yeah, 12,000 revs. That's very quick. I mean, most people change gear in a car at 2,000 to 3,000. So you can imagine how fast 12,000 is. It's about the idle speed of a Formula One car. It used to be, because they used to go at 20,000, which was unheard of when I was a kid. I mean, the fastest engine I'd heard of when I was a kid was in Top Trumps, and it was a 50cc two-stroke motorbike, and that went to 12,000. But it's common now, is that.